Hello everybody, this is Frank and Angie with Retire Earlier and Better at Home or Abroad, whatever is best for you. I have reservations about saying that after all of this new circumstances that have come to light in the last several months in 2020, spring of 2020. But anyway, we're going to make this video about the 3 countries you really need to know about, because a lot of people are considering or going or are in Ecuador, Italy, and the third place would be a cluster of countries which include some of the countries that have been in the news that have not been hit as hard with numbers and haven't gone along with the narrative as much. There are several, and but I don't want to name them at this point. The first one is Ecuador. Okay, now Ecuador has allowed flights back in starting in June. A lot of people have asked, the discussion goes to insecurity of the numbers of people that are afflicted and this kind of thing. When the discussion goes there, people want to say, well, what about Ecuador? They've got such huge numbers. So what we need to do is step back a little bit and talk about, because things like this have happened in the past in history. Now, we made some videos in the last month about famines and things like that, but this has more to do with plagues. So there are and have been plagues in the world, and there are also predictions of plagues in the future in ancient writings, in the Bible. For example, right in the Middle Ages, the bubonic plague killed off, just going from memory, either a third or a half of all the population. Now, the bubonic plague was caused by, the literature says it was caused by rats that were imported from abroad, from mercantile ships, international trade, which is what we're hearing, a similar thing now, where because of international movements, tourism, trade, what have you, people flying in from China and going to Europe and going to South America, this kind of thing. So they had similar things then. But what's not readily apparent and understood is that the Middle Ages Europe was already fully, what's the word? They were ripe. Middle Ages Europe was ripe for a plague. Why were they ripe for a plague? Because they had extreme non-hygienic conditions. They did not dispose of their garbage properly, and just no running water and just things like that, okay? So you're not washing your hands, you got garbage. Then the domino effect, we've talked about that, is when all these rats were imported on these ships. So now you've got this combustion, this combination of unsanitary conditions, filth, garbage, and now let's just import all these rats. And in this type of environment, the rat population just exploded and caused just huge numbers of people to die from a bubonic plague. Now, what's that got to do with Ecuador? Well, people that ask us, well, what about the numbers in Ecuador? Remember that you're focusing on the superficial part of this conversation. We're going deeper. We're going to the foundation. The superficial numbers is what you're seeing everywhere right now, which is what? The numbers. But going on the underside of that, anyone that knows Ecuador as we do, having spent 8 years there and still have ties there, that they are in the similar position that Middle Ages Europe was just before their bubonic plague hit. Their conditions, if you are aware of it, in certain areas of Ecuador are similar, if not worse, because the populations may be even bigger nowadays than they were back then. So they are fully ripe for plagues. Now, are they fully ripe for COVID-19? Now, see, that's the part of the discussion that gets a little murky, because, there's a lot of people that will tell you, and it's already broke the news. It's already been out. The news is out. The numbers are cooked. It's easy to manipulate numbers to say everybody that's dying, it's all COVID.
There are other countries that if you had a pre-existing condition And let's say the virus caused you to go to the ICU and then have a heart or kidney problem. Some countries are recording that as a heart issue or a kidney issue and not a COVID-19 death. Right now, we're still recording it, and the great thing about having forms that come in and a form that has the ability to mark it as COVID-19 infection, the intent is right now that if someone dies with COVID-19, we are counting that.
All right, and so it's not beyond institutions and such, those that have an interest in these kinds of things, to So that's what you've got going on in Ecuador. You've got real plague going on. Is it labeled COVID-19? Yeah, it's labeled COVID-19 because, well, it's convenient. That's what you've got going forward on that. In Italy, you've got similar situations, a little bit different circumstances, where you've got an elderly population, 50% of them smoke, and you have a very high pollution count in the north, where there's some industry there. So you have similar conditions to Wuhan, China. Although I'm sure they're worse in Wuhan, they're pretty bad there because there are, just Chinese factories there. So you got similar things going on there. And the plagues there, it is similar. You've got elderly folks with already pre-existing conditions that smoke, so they're very susceptible. And then along comes a bad flu season. Is it all COVID?
Siamo alla vigilia del 25 aprile e occorre essere uniti contro le dittature e uniti nella verità. Non facciamo di questa l'aula della menzogna. Non il 26 febbraio, ma il 9 marzo, la scienza qua evocata, diceva che il virus era poco più che un'influenza. Quella scienza è quella a cui si è ispirato questo governo. È stato detto, è documentato, è stato detto, non mentite. Allora dite la verità, non fate di questa l'aula della menzogna. Almeno qui si applica il principio di Giambattista Vico, verum ipsum factum. E allora avete sentito e avete dato i numeri, li voglio dare anch'io, no Dattis, no Pagani, non dite anche qui 25.000 morti, non è vero, non usate i morti per retorica e per terrorismo. I dati dell'Istituto Superiore della Sanità dicono che il 96,3% sono morti per altre patologie. Esattamente i dati, i numeri, dice questo. È la verità, è la verità.
Colleghi,
falli a leggere,
collega.
esattamente così. Li ho letti tutti. Il 60% sono morti per altre patologie, detto dall'Istituto Superiore della Sanità. Se non lo sai, studia.
Collega Sgarbi, si rivolga. Collega Sgarbi, collega Trizzino, collega Sgarbi si rivolga alla Presidenza.
Sono i contagiati, e mentre l'Italia è la zona rossa, qui tutti erano senza mascherine. Oggi Basini è accusato perché la deve portare per forza. Siete ridicoli. Non l'avete portata fino all'altro ieri. È esattamente così. In Germania, economia, sanità e scuola il 4 maggio funzioneranno perfettamente. Siamo uno Stato con minori diritti nell'Europa. Germania ha dato prove di forza e di risposta giusta. Noi qui siamo umiliati ancora una volta dalla Germania, anche nella malattia. Ebbene, proprio perché la verità è la cosa più importante, diamo i numeri reali. Non continuiamo a mentire. Ci sono certamente dei dati forti. Li leggo anche qua, Trizzino. Il 56% in Lombardia, il 14% in Emilia, l'8% in Piemonte, il 5% in Veneto. Non possiamo immaginare di applicare delle norme unitarie con zone così disparate di epidemia. E allora dico, almeno qui diciamo la verità. misuriamoci con la Germania, siamo uniti nella liberazione contro l'ipocrisia e le menzogne, contro le falsificazioni, contro i falsi numeri che vengono dati per terrorizzare gli italiani. I 25.000 morti, lo diceva il professor Bassetti, sono morti di infarto, di cancro, di altre patologie. Non usiamoli per umiliare l'Italia, non usiamoli per dare ai cittadini false notizie. Date i numeri, controllateli, e sfido in giurito onore te, Trizzino, a guardare i numeri.
Collega Sgarbi, si rivolga alla Presidenza.
Ho semplicemente detto che i numeri li danno tutti, ma non diano numeri falsi. Non sono morte in Italia 25.000 persone di coronavirus. Non è vero. È un modo per terrorizzare gli italiani e imporre una dittatura del consenso. È ridicolo.
So the other scenario you've got surrounding Italy is that a certain technology person, not named, has made contracts and agreements with Big Pharma and the president of Italy. The first thing they did is they paid $150 million to the president of Italy, and in order to institute vaccines in Italy from this Big Pharma. And the Big Pharma got a contract from the president, which he was paid $150 million from the big, huge tech guy we won't name, to accept a contract to indemnify the Big Pharma against people getting sick, because these vaccines will not have had the time to be truly tested, and they get to rush these vaccines in and then perhaps even mandate them, because there's so many mandated things already here. People don't really know the conditions in Italy. When you see these la-la videos on YouTube telling you how wonderful Italy is and how the great tax incentives, all the reasons to go to Italy, and I'm not saying they're not there, but
can I say something?
There's always things that are being left out.
Italy is the most beautiful country I've ever been in on the outside.
It's very beautiful here as far as the country itself, but what's happening on a political level is not as nice as what the country really is, and the people are wonderful and amazing. Of course, we love the people.
Are. We love Italians.
So we're talking about specifics that are happening here. You know, they got their signs on their trains. If anybody just has a little cough, call the train management. This is the kind of conditions you're looking at here. So it's falling into fascism. And then the other places are the cluster of countries where it's the people. The people in these countries seem to be more resilient to the misinformation narrative, and therefore they're not treating their people as badly. However, the issue that's going on there is you've got certain kinds of journalistic endeavors, magazines, websites, and such, that are demonizing these places, making it sound saying how bad their governments are, how bad the decisions are, and of course all of the people that are superficially knowledgeable and don't know the foundational story, the real story, are all on there just reinforcing that demonization narrative of these very few cluster of places. It's a handful or less that don't seem to be as bad right now. So they've got the demonization going on for them. So the ancient scripture says that this thing will be global, and therefore it's just a matter of time. However, there is a silver lining, and that is how you, the people, react. It's all about the people. It's all about how you handle the situation. Do you help your neighbors? Do you spread the facts that you know? Do you help them understand the real narrative? Do you help them understand all the key facts that masks are not hygienic? And it doesn't matter what world organization, not mentioning any names, is saying, because they have lost their credibility a long time ago. And we were one of the first to make videos back in February 2020 about the real scoop about health, influenzas, and viruses, and what people should really be afraid of and not be afraid of, and how they should take care of themselves in order to avoid problems. We were the first to make that video back in February, and therefore we weren't people that were subjecting ourselves to the narrative of these international organizations. There's a lot of people that follow the narrative of the international organizations as if those are a real, believable source. We were never one of those outfits. We've always done our own thinking, and we encourage you to to do your own thinking and to help your neighbors. You know, it's not just the internet. There's a lot of people on the internet, but there's a lot of people off the internet that need your help, that need your assistance. They need to understand the truth. All, you know, these people that
You mean the older population that don't get on the internet?
Or whether whatever the reason that they're not on the internet, or they're
Yes.
just for one reason or another haven't found the truth, because you know
There's a lot of people.
certain videos are getting banned and shadow banned, and all of the big tech companies that are social media that are you know, trying to prevent people from getting information. This is not, you know, free speech. So all right, so the silver lining in all this is that how we react to the situation to help people. And so having said that, you know, let us know in the comments what your thoughts are. Now more than ever, we should definitely help our neighbor and other people, and you know, hang together. And with that, share the video and do the algorithm stuff. Have a nice day.